So in this video, we're going to go and create our floor and our roof um, elements in Revit. And if you go to 233 and 234, you can kind of see what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using lightweight concrete over metal deck. And here it shows some of the typical profiles that are used for the metal deck. So what we're going to be using, Revit default is this 2-inch deck with, I believe, 3-inch concrete over the top. And you can see here, they show the dimensions, and I can show the flutes. The flutes are these, um, these parts here that go horizontal. And so they show the dimensions, the typical dimensions. You can also go to particular manufacturers to get the same information. This is Formlock. So Verco makes these decks, and there's lots of companies that make the metal deck, and this is one. And you can see they have similar dimensions here. So I can show you how to make this exact profile in the Revit model. We're going to use this 3-inch deep deck is pretty common. So we're going to use this 3-inch deep deck with 3 inches of concrete on the top of it. And you can see here the concrete depth. Here down here, this one, it shows you this is the concrete fill, this dash line. You can see this dash line here. And it's 5 to 7.5 inches. And then over here, there's some more information about the span. Span to 7 to 14 feet. Typical widths are 24 or 36 inches wide and 42 foot long sheets. And so they'll put this on top of the beams, which we'll do when we start working on a structural model. This will be done in our architectural model, but we'll also do it in the structural model. So typically, an architect will model the floor and some beams and whatnot, and the structural engineer will too. So the structural engineer will model them and then add, rebar and other notes to them. But the architect will add them, and then the structural engineer will need to match the profile or the outline of the architectural slab. So both models will have it. Architect will always drive the dimensions of the slab, and the structural engineer will drive the design. So let's head to our Revit. Let's go to a level 2 plan if you don't have one. So if you're over here in your project browser, go to View, click on Plan Views, and Floor Plan. Always a good idea to save often. And so we can just create our level 2 floor plan here, because this will be we'll do the level 2, 3 floors, and then we'll create the fourth, the roof level. So similar to what we did on our residential, we'll go to the architecture tab, and we'll choose floor. If you click the little arrow, it gives you some options. We're going to do the architectural floor. And you should have one of the defaults, should be this 3-inch lightweight concrete on 2-inch metal deck. That should be the default one that's in there, and there's some other ones here. But we'll start with this 3-inch concrete on 2-inch metal deck. I'm just gonna go, because I have already created it, but I'm going to delete it out so we can do it together. It's not letting me delete it. Hold on, let me exit out, see if it'll let me. Yeah, it just didn't want me to delete it. Well, that wasn't the plan. So we can go back to architecture, floor. So under the 3-inch lightweight concrete on metal deck, we're going to edit type, and we're going to duplicate it. And we're going to call it 3-inch lightweight concrete over 3-inch metal deck. Then you'll want to edit the structure. And you can see in the structure, we have the overall thickness. You'll change that to 6. And you can see over here the profile. So what this profile does is 5 inches before. It's going to give you a 5-inch overall depth. And then it's going to use this deck profile down here that's grayed out. If you select on this structural deck, you can then change the deck profile. And we're going to add the new profile. But for right now, we'll just change this to 6 inches. And so if you go to insert, don't do this, but you can see you can add a structural deck layer, which allows you to use this composite floor. I'm going to delete that one out. That was just an example. And we'll hit OK. And OK again. And then get this over in your Modify tab, hit Pick Lines. And then over on the left top here, you're going to change this to a 1-inch offset. So you can do 0 space 1, enter, to give you a 1-inch offset. And then we'll pick this inside line to give us our 1-inch offset from the back of our wall. When we were doing residentials, the floor or the joists would sit on top of the walls. They'd be bearing. But in this commercial project, the beams and the columns are going to be what are supporting the structure. So we're going to want our walls to bypass the floors. So this made this at level 2, floor, and then we can hit OK. And then now we have our floor with a 1-inch gap to the back of the wall. Go to your View tab, hit Section, and we'll cut a section through the long ways. Right click on it and go to View, and you can see our floor. And you can see what this is showing is a side cut of the side view of the deck. So we have the concrete is going to be 5 inches or 6 inches overall. And then we have our deck here, which we can't tab to it, but you can kind of see the line there. And it's showing a section cut through there, so we're seeing the thickness of the deck, and then the dashed line is the leg or the flute that is beyond. So if we go back to our level 2 plan, go to our View tab, hit Section, and cut a section this way. So we'll cut a section north to south, right click, go to View, and then you can see the profile of the deck. And it's using a profile similar to what we did for these bricks and the stone cap. We're using a profile for this floor. So if you come over here to the project browser and you click the plus next to families, scroll down till you get profiles, and then see where it says form deck non-composite. You'll want to click on that. And I think, so what we want to use is we do want to use a composite deck. So let's go to our Insert tab, Load Family, and it should bring you up to your English Imperial folder. You'll want to go to Profiles, Metal Deck, and we will use the non-composite that's in there because we don't want to use this dovetail. I don't often see that used. They have that on the Verco site. And it's that weird. I don't often see this used. I'm not sure where they would use it. But I've just never seen it used. It doesn't mean it doesn't get used, just means I haven't seen it. But it's just another deck profile. Most of the time we see this kind. And so we'll just hit cancel. So you can load the form deck like we just did if you don't have this form deck non-composite. But we can just use this non-composite as our composite deck. It'll be a similar profile. And we're going to make it our profile anyway. So we're going to duplicate. So right click on there and hit duplicate. It's going to create you a 2x6 inch form lock. And so you'll right click on that to click type properties. And let's go back to our book. We're going to use 3-inch by, let's see, who's good at math? 7.25 divided by 2. So we're going to do, hold on one second. So this will actually be 12 inches from the center of this flute to the center of the next flute. So we duplicated that. And before we go in, so we're going to rename. We're going to call it 3-inch by 12. And so we'll change this dimension to 1 inch, or 12 inches, I mean, sorry. We'll change this to 3 inches. And let's look. We'll change this to 4.75, sorry, 4.75 inches, and this to 7.25 inches, and hit OK. Now we'll go back into our metal deck, edit type, edit structure, highlight the structural deck, and we'll change it to the one we just made. And as you can see, there's something wrong here. So let me do this a different way. Go over here and right click on this form deck composite, and then tip edit. It's going to open up the profile family. So we'll open up this family, hit view graphics, either by going to view, visibility graphics, or hitting VG as a shortcut. Go to annotation, turn on dimensions and reference planes. Hit OK. Let's change the scale of this profile to 3 inches so we can see these dimensions. I'm going to bring our profile up so it's 3 inches deep by 4 3/4 inch wide by 7 1/4 inch wide flute. So if we go to our create tab and we hit this here, which is family types, it brings up the parameters so we can see the different parameters. So SR, so HR we can see over here. Let's see, make sure we can see all the parameters. This SR is kind of floating up there. Let's just select these dimensions and bring them in tighter. Alrighty, so now we can see all of our parameters. So center to center is this SR, so that should be 12 inches. So we were correct there. HR should be 0.3. Oops, and I'm going to hit cancel. I'll show you why. Before we start making adjustments, let's change this to the 3x12, which is the one that we did. You can see, so now we would put the 1 foot. Let's check our other dimensions. HR should be 3, so that's why ours looked all messed up. this RR value is the value, let's see, WR, let's make that the 7 1/4. And RR should be 2 3/8 because it looks like it's, let's see. So let's make that 2 point. So half of 4 3/4 would be 2.375. Hit apply. So that looks right. 7 1/4. So yeah, that looks right. So let's load into project. Up here at the tab, override existing. Oops. Let's see. Let's go back over to our form lock deck. Right click on that and hit type properties. It did not change the profile because we didn't override. So I think if we just go to load again, since we didn't make any changes, yeah, it won't do anything. So go ahead and go edit the family type. Hit apply. Load into, and then overwrite the existing version and its parameter values. So we'll select the second one there. So now if we right click on this and go to type properties, yeah, it should be the correct profile. And if not, the changes that we made, you would just need to make them in your project. So now we've got the correct profile. And so you would have changed them right there. So now you can hit the deck, hit edit type, go back to the edit structure, select the structural deck, and change it to that 3x12, and hit OK. And now you can see it changed the profile of that deck to be the one that we're showing from our book. And so that's how you would change the profile of that. The next thing you can do is just select this floor and hit CC, or you can come up here to the Modify tab and hit Copy. And we can actually just copy this floor straight up. If you hit Copy, make sure if you want to do multiple, hit multiple. And we'll copy it all the way up to the roof. Now the roof will be a little bit different. The roof, we're going to, they use a smaller deck. They use a smaller rib deck because they're not going to fill this with concrete typically. They show it being filled with concrete on here, but they typically do not fill the roof deck. They usually use the 3-inch deep deck for the roof, or for the floors, and they fill with concrete, but when they do not, they use the smaller deck. And that's pretty common. You'll see that in most projects. And most of the time on projects, commercial projects I usually see this 1.5-inch deck used, and not concrete fill. They'll usually use rigid insulation, which is a hard insulation that they'll put on here. And then they can form it so that it drains to the roof drains. So we're going to make this profile now, which is the 1.5-inch by 2.5-inch deck flute with 6 inches in between. And actually, if we go here, I think I saw this when we loaded. So let's go load another family. And let's load this form deck non-composite, because I believe there's already a bunch in there. Hit open. Override existing versions. Don't override existing versions and parameters, or we'll lose our 3x12. And then, let's see. Yeah, it looks like they've got this form deck non-composite 1.5-inch by 6 that is being shown in our book. So that's easy. So now we'll select this floor. I always check to see if we've already got this floor. Does not look like we do. So I'm going to edit type and duplicate. And I'm just going to call this 1.5" roof deck. I'm going to edit. I'm going to delete this concrete layer. Oh yeah, so okay, so what we'll want to do here is standalone deck. And then we can delete that other layer, and we'll make this 1.5". Oops, we'll change this to that 1.5". And so that's a more realistic, it will be unfilled. And you can see now we just have our 1.5" roof deck. And let's see here. I'll have to look for that section later. But I can show you what the typical roof will look like with that 1.5" deck. Let's see here. So here they're showing this deck. You can see this rigid insulation here, and that's the deck that we just drew. So I'll have to look for that clearer detail. Here again, yeah, you can see the board insulation. That's that smaller deck at that 1.5" deck for the roof. And you can see here, this is the typical floor section where they use a 6-inch concrete floor. So yeah, so then the next thing we'll do is, I think that'll be it. I think that'll be it just for the roofs and the floor. So we can get our floor slab in here, but now we've got all of our floor slabs with the concrete fill, and then the roof slab. So if you go to your 3D view, now we've got this concrete and our roof floors in our model now. All right. As always, let me know if you have any questions.